Hi there, hope you are doing well. Let's start our lesson. Well, today's lesson is Unit 9, Globalization in Uzbekistan. Well, before we start our lesson, as usual, I give you some motivation, okay? Well, the expert in anything was once a beginner. That means now if you are a beginner, one day or once you will be an expert. I hope. Okay, no one is perfect. That's why pencils have erasers. If you make mistake, don't worry. One day you'll be professional. Okay, no matter how you feel, get up, dress up, show up, and never give up. Well, here I would like you to watch this video to have clear information about globalization. Then we'll continue our lesson. Okay? Ready?
The concept of globalization and the potential benefits aren't hard to understand. By eliminating trade barriers in an honest manner, everyone could theoretically win. 1. Poor countries would receive a significant influx of capital, as international companies take advantage of the lower wages, and in time, this could even lead to a gradual eradication of poverty. 2. Those who live in rich countries can take advantage of greater product variety, as well as better prices thanks to imports. 3. The world would move towards a more efficient allocation of capital, based on whatever it is each country can produce better than others. If a country cannot produce, let's say, clothing in a cost-effective manner, it can simply import clothes and focus on the products it's better at making. Unfortunately, things haven't exactly gone as planned for several reasons. 1. Most countries don't practice what they preach when it comes to being fair. For example, rich countries which encourage poorer countries to sell them resources, but discourage them from selling actual high value-added products. 2. Everyone wants to game the system by artificially weakening their currency to boost exports, subsidizing industries, and so on. 3. Whenever something's wrong with the economy, local politicians and citizens love blaming globalization. It sure beats looking in the mirror.
Well, after watching this video, have you got any clear information? If yes, let's continue. Here, I will give you clear definition to globalization. Globalization is the process of interaction and the integration among people, companies, and government worldwide, around the world. Lesson 1, Uzbekistan and the UN. This is the continuation of our previous lesson, and we have to review our lesson. Uzbekistan and the UN. So, what does UN stand for? The United Nations. Yes, you're right. Okay, Uzbekistan joined the UN in 1992 as a sovereign and independent state, and the UN opened its office in Tashkent the same year. Answer the questions. What does UN stand for? What is the UN? What is the purpose of UN? And what are the official languages of the UN? Do you remember all this information? If yes, you are so smart. Well, the purpose, and then more questions. The purpose of the UN, why the UN is still needed, how often the UN meets, the official languages of the UN. Well, this text is given in your book, so if the sentence is not clear, so you can open your book and follow. So before you do reading task, you always underline or highlight most important dates, names, numbers, the name of the cities, and others. So here I have already underlined or highlighted most important dates. So first one, read and check your answers. So here you can see the United Nations, before we start reading, we just pay attention to the most important numbers. The United Nations, Second World War, 1948, the UN, Peace and Security. So 1948 again, so Korea, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Iran, Iraq, the Gulf War in Kuwait. Well, and then again the UN, General Assembly, 185. So here in your book, this is old information. Now there are 193 states joined to the UN. Okay, English and French, Chinese, French, Russian, Spanish, and English, Arabic. Before we read the text, we have already underlined or highlighted most important dates, right? So you have already read this text at home last time. This is the review, you know. That's why we have to answer the questions, all of this here. What does UN stand for? See, United Nations. Yes, you're right. Again, what is the UN? What is the UN? We'll try to find from your book. Look, the United Nations officially came into being at the end of the Second World War. When? Yes, you're right. At the end of the Second World War. Then, what is the purpose of the UN? Take a look at here. Peace. The UN is to maintain peace and security throughout the world and develop friendly relationship among nations. Okay, next one. What are the official languages of the UN? Here, 5 official languages are used for meetings: Chinese, French, Russian, Spanish, and English. Arabic is also used as an official language in the General Assembly. Next one. The purpose you have already found. Why the UN is still needed? Why? To maintain peace and security throughout the world. Well, listening. Enjoy listening about the United Nations and Uzbekistan. Well, let's get started.
Unit 9, Lesson 1, Activity 2A and...
Before you listen and answer. We have a couple of questions to answer, so listen it very carefully and pay attention to the most important dates, names, and numbers, okay? Well.
2B. Since independence, Uzbekistan has made great efforts to take her place in the world community. Uzbekistan became a member of the UN on March 2nd, 1992. In 1993, President Islam Karimov introduced Uzbekistan as a new, young country at the 48th session of the General Assembly. In his speech, he touched on topics where action was needed, such as the fight against drugs and improving the Aral Sea situation. 1993 also saw the opening of a UN office in Uzbekistan. Today, the UN is involved in a number of development programs in Uzbekistan. These range from industrial development programs and programs against drugs to programs to promote children's health and school development programs. In 1994, the UN held an international meeting on the Silk Road. Many issues were discussed, such as the possibility of making Central Asia a nuclear-free zone. In 1997, an international conference on this theme was held in Tashkent. Representatives from 56 countries and 16 international organizations attended the conference.
Well, this is the end of our listening. but we'll listen it one more time to make it clear information, because here you can see dates and pay attention to these, what happened in these years, okay?
1. Activity 2A and 2B. Since independence, Uzbekistan has made great efforts to take her place in the world community. Uzbekistan became a member of the UN on March 2nd, 1992. In 1993, President Islam Karimov introduced Uzbekistan as a new, young country at the 48th session of the General Assembly. In his speech, he touched on topics where action was needed, such as the fight against drugs and improving the Aral Sea situation. 1993 also saw the opening of a UN office in Uzbekistan. Today, the UN is involved in a number of development programs in Uzbekistan. These range from industrial development programs and programs against drugs to programs to promote children's health and school development programs. In 1994, the UN held an international meeting on the Silk Road. Many issues were discussed, such as the possibility of making Central Asia a nuclear-free zone. In 1997, an international conference on this theme was held in Tashkent. Representatives from 56 countries and 16 international organizations attended the conference.
Yes. Here, students, you can see taken information from listening. Well, you will answer to the question A. Nowadays, the UN has a number of development programs such as fighting against drugs, improving the Aral Sea, industrial development programs, promoting children's health, and school developing programs. So, have you listened this information? If yes, I'm so proud of you. Well, next question. What happened in 1992? Uzbekistan joined the UN. Yes, you're right. Exact date. 1993, former President of Uzbekistan, Islam Karimov, introduced Uzbekistan as a new, young country to the UN. And in 1994, held an international meeting on the Silk Road. And in 1997 was held an international conference in Tashkent on the theme of Silk Road. If you got all this information correctly, you are very smart and you got 5. Well, and this is your homework time. Well, let's see, what's your homework? Well, your homework is going to be, what is these acronyms stands for? These are abbreviations, the same as UN or the USA or the UK. Homework is to find what does this each word mean, abbreviation, okay? That's easy. You can search on the internet or from your book. Thank you. Goodbye. Take care.